Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome an accomplished professional, a fellow YPOer from Chicago, USA, Jody LaVoie. Jody, welcome to the
Ash, I'm thrilled. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you. Jody is the founder of Widows in the Workplace. She's a widow coach. And as I just mentioned, she's a fellow member of the YPO. So, Jody, before we talk about Widows in the Workplace, you've had an amazing personal journey. And a tragic event in 2014 changed your life. Tell me a little bit about this.
Well, Ash, like so many people, we have this kind of culminating moment in our lives that makes us really realize and open our eyes to what is really important. And in 2014, I had one of those events, and it was unlike any you could imagine and that you see in the news. So I was a stay-at-home mom. I came home from a run. I got a knock on the door. I open it. There's a local police officer there. And he just says, your husband has been gravely injured, and I need you to call this number. And that's all the information I had. 5 minutes later, I get a call from the news, who they tell me my husband had been shot at work by an employee, and they asked if I had a comment. Wow. And that's how I learned about this tragic event that unfolded at our place of business in downtown Chicago in the Loop. And that is the moment that changed my life forever.
So sorry about that.
Thank
and
you.
Then tell me, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced when you took over the business? And how did you overcome them? And where did you get a lot of support from?
Yeah, and that's huge. So overnight, not only was I solo parenting 3 daughters, but I had a business to run. My late husband had founded a supply chain technology business, and our plan was, I'm in charge if something happens. So note to all those entrepreneurs out there, please have a better plan than just that if something were to happen. But biggest challenges, right out of the gate, I had a PR challenge, Ash, because the media had spun all of this that happened saying that we were downsizing, which was not at all the case. And of course, when news gets out there that a company is downsizing, customers are questioned, investors get questioned. So that was not the case. So that was big address number 1. Number 2, I had to recreate and rebuild an executive team that could support the change in business. My husband had actually demoted this employee who had come and shot him at work. And all of a sudden we're down, a president, a CEO, a CTO, and needed to restructure the team. Secondly, I needed advisors. I had never done this before. I'd never run a business. So I reconstructed our advisory board, and I joined YPO because I needed to surround myself with other leaders, business owners who'd been in a similar position, who could advise me. And so being able to build this network of people who'd been there, done that, but also they would listen to me.
Correct.
And you and I started this conversation a little bit before we came on about Form Confidential.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, there are very private, scary things that you want to share with others, but don't necessarily need out there publicly.
Yeah.
And so to have that group of business people was such a gift.
What an amazing response, Jody. And I completely endorse your comment on what a powerful network YPO is for people like you and me, and how much we can depend upon our members. Thank you. So now let me move on, Jody, and talk about Widows in the Workplace. and you being a widow coach, what inspired you to start Widows in the Workplace?
Yes. So I ended up running the business for 2.5 years and selling to private equity. And during that time, as a woman in leadership in supply chain and tech,
Mm.
it's hard to be a
Yeah.
woman in leadership
Mm.
out there. There aren't many of us out there
Mm.
in general, and that's on a good day. And then you add grief
Mm.
and trying to navigate solo parenting and all of the other things that come with being a widow and then now running a business. It makes it hard.
Mm.
So I wanted to create a place where widows who are also professionals
Mm.
and working
Mm.
and want to be working
Mm.
also can get the support they need
Mm.
from someone who's been there and done a
Mm.
lot of the things that they're
Mm.
going through
Yeah.
and help them reground themselves. In many cases, it's rebuilding confidence
Yeah.
that you may have lost
Mm.
and really being able to see that there is a strong future after
Mm.
loss.
Mm. Very
Yeah.
well said. And when I was preparing to talk to you, and when I've had my own losses in my family, it said that one of the biggest traumas a human being faces, number one, is loss of a spouse.
Yes.
And
Yes.
you've been through that, and you're supporting a lot of other people who are going through similar challenges. But tell
Mm.
me, how do you help widows rediscover, reimagine, and relaunch the three R's their lives?
Yeah, absolutely. And those are such important R's in widows' lives. And everybody comes to me in a different place.
Mm.
Some widows come to me even before they've lost their
Mm.
spouse because they have a terminal
Yeah,
diagnosis. And
yeah.
so they're trying, this one widow even used the words, I'd like to set myself up for success. I'm
Mm.
scared and I
Mm.
don't want to do this alone.
Mm.
And so really assess where they are first, because
Mhm.
they may not have lost their spouse already. They may be 3 years
Mm.
out from losing their spouse.
Mm.
So
Mm.
everyone comes in a different place. So
Right.
really looking at their grief, at many times resolving guilt
Mm.
and anger around their grief, because until we can understand that, it's hard to move forward from that.
Mhm.
So once we've done that,
Mm.
it's really about rebuilding confidence, giving them courage,
Mm.
helping them see vision.
Mm.
And frequently, I mean, this seems simple, Ash, but basic habits, routines, all of those got totally thrown to
Yeah.
the wind
Yeah.
when these types of events happen.
Mm.
And so frequently, as a widow, you're just trying to put out fires.
Yep.
And at a certain time, when you get your fires at a simmer,
Mm.
you're ready to go, okay, I'm doing it, but
Mm.
there's got to be more. And
Mm.
that's when I help them find
Mm.
out what is the more in their
Mm.
life.
Well said. Thank you. And Jody, how do you tailor your coaching approach for
Sure.
individuals from diverse backgrounds?
Right, right. And I talked a little bit about diversity of where they are in their
Mm.
grieving process,
Mm.
and that's so important. And then of course there's cultural
Mm.
differences that come
Correct.
into play, and
Correct.
how people grieve in different cultures
Mm-hmm.
is so important. And I honor and respect and keep that as part of our healing process, because
Right.
that it's so important.
Mm. Very well said. My next question is, and then I was trying to debate how to ask you this, but as a coach, you are supposed to only ask questions. But as someone who's supporting so many women, so many widows, you need to bring in a lot of empathy as well. How do you
Sure.
balance empathy and practicality in your coaching?
It's such an important question, Ash. And so it's kind of the core of what I
Mm.
do,
Mm.
because widows come to me because I've also been there. And so I can understand and I can empathize. But they also come because they're ready to make a change and they're looking for someone to help them see how to do that from how do I get from where I am to where I want to be? And by the way, I don't know where that is.
Yeah.
So helping them vision that
Mm.
and hold their hand, yet provide them with direction, support, and at times accountability and making sure that they're taking action because it's lonely being a widow, Ash. You don't have your person
Right.
anymore. So wait a minute. Jody, you said you were going to go do this week, and I haven't seen anything happen to that. So there's some of that needs to happen, absolutely, in a soft, empathetic way.
Well said. Well said. And can you share some strategies for coping with grief, especially for those in the workplace?
Absolutely. So very important, and this is hard, especially for women without grief, is to ask for help.
Right.
We are afraid to ask for help. And so many of us are afraid to ask for help. And you have to let that go. You really need to. I called it, and I created my widow board of directors. I outsourced to experts in all aspects of my life. And I needed that. I didn't have time to become an expert in supply chain technology or in researching specialty schools for my children.
Right.
So being able to ask for help. Number two, to take care of yourself, Ash. And we all like to give so much for others, give to the business, give to our children, give to our family, but you will burn out
Correct.
quickly and your health will suffer. You can only do that for so long. And frankly, it prolongs your healing process if you don't take care of yourself. Taking breaks during the day, we're YPOers, Ash. We're like heads down. We want to get it done. We want to be successful, but our brains, when you're in grief, are not able to fire like normal. And that is okay. And it's just important that especially people in grief know, like, nothing is wrong with you. That is part of what grief does. It really affects the rewiring of your brain, but it will get better and it will heal. So you need to give it time to do what it needs to do and feel your emotions.
Amazing. Thank you. My next question is that what are some of the leadership lessons you learned through your journey? After taking over ArrowStream and then starting off on your own, that you would like to share with a lot of others?
Absolutely. Most important is to believe in yourself. You've got this. And I mean, Ash, I was a stay-at-home mom. I was not running a business. I didn't know how to do that. I just stepped into it fully and just knew that I had the skills. I had the confidence that I could do it. And so believing in yourself is so important. Secondly, to be present wherever you are, because it's so easy to be at work and be thinking about, are my kids okay at home? And is this okay at home? And I really was able to focus where I was and know, because I had my widow board of directors, that all these other parts of my life were doing what they're supposed to be doing and were well cared for. So I could focus on the task at hand. And then when I'm home with my kids, I could focus on my kids.
Yeah.
And then three, give yourself grace and be able to be flexible. There are going to be a lot of unusual things that can surface, and you're like, wait, I've got 10 things on my plate. I've got another thing coming. That is okay, because look at all I have accomplished so far. I can do this too. So little pep talk for yourself here and
Yeah.
there is really important.
Fascinating. Thank you. My next question is how important are support networks for widows, and how can one build or find such networks?
Ooh, Ash, that's a huge one. And I highly recommend building your support network. Also, within the widow and grieving community, we
Mm,
talked about how to support your work and your household, but
mm,
finding others that have been there is so important. So, I mean, for me, I found widows in my town
mhm,
that had just informally been gathering to support
mhm,
each other. And every town out there has widows like them. We're so lucky with all of social media. There are
mhm,
widow groups
mhm,
online
mhm,
that are local to your area as well. And so I encourage people to find that support. Get therapy if you need it.
mhm,
Find a widow coach and a grief coach if you need that.
mhm,
But getting that support for yourself from those that are experts in that field or been there, done that is very
mhm, mhm. And Jody, as a widow coach, what are some of the steps you would take when someone comes to you and says, I'm faced with this challenge?
Yes. So first, and many of them they all come with generally a larger challenge that they
Hmm.
would like to solve.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you're first figuring out what that is
Hmm.
and what's behind it and causing them to feel like they're not able to move forward in whatever that challenge is. So there's
Hmm.
a bit of analysis and digging in to that.
Hmm.
And then it's helping them vision about where they would like to go
Hmm.
and then helping them step back into what are the steps that are going to take to get there? What resources do you need to get there?
Hmm.
And let's put a plan together on how to do that.
Hmm. Hmm. And would you be able to share one or two interesting stories of how you've helped support or transform some challenging situations through your coaching?
Absolutely. And most recently, I've encountered a lot of widows that had to take over their husbands' businesses.
Okay.
So, as somebody that's done that, that is
Yeah.
very near and dear to
Hmm.
my heart. And these are women too that did not have that background. So,
Hmm.
helping them build the confidence in themselves that they can do this, but also helping them find the resources that could be good supports for
Hmm.
them along the way is been really transformational.
Hmm.
Um, Seeing how they step in to their new role as a
Hmm.
head of household, Ash,
Hmm.
because that's
Absolutely.
terrifying. You know, you used to have a partner to support you, and now all of a sudden you're making
Yeah.
decisions that can be pretty scary.
Correct.
And seeing them evolve and become strong and feel good about themselves
Hmm.
is just incredibly rewarding.
Hmm.
I have worked with widow clients who were in a place
Hmm.
and ready to find love again,
Hmm.
too.
Hmm.
And that's a beautiful thing to help support them on that search journey
Hmm.
um, for themselves on how to find that person. And
Fascinating.
yeah,
Fascinating. What a great response. So, I have time for two more questions for you. My
okay.
next question is, how can society or the community that we live in better support widows, especially in the workplace?
Ah, I love this question, Ash, because and I'll speak to the US population.
Hmm.
We are not great,
Hmm.
good at all talking about death,
Hmm.
grief, emotions, feelings. That is something that people tend to run from.
Hmm.
So, as a society, in yourself, understanding your emotions, being able to talk about them,
Hmm.
being able to have empathy and actually listen
Hmm.
when somebody is talking about them,
Hmm.
so important. And at the corporate level, Ash, there's so much that companies can do, and companies really are at the forefront of this a possible transformation for their employees that are grieving. 1 in 4 employees are grieving a loss at any one time, and $75 billion is lost in companies due to grief for time that they're not able to be as productive, time off, needing to replace your workplace because you didn't support them enough. So being able to train your leadership on how to best support employees that are grieving, and really having a solid company policy on what that can look like for your employees beside, okay, here's 2 visits with your EAP. And we'll send you some flowers.
Well said. Well said. And my last question to you, Jody, what message would you like to give to others who might be starting or facing a similar journey?
Give yourself grace and know that this takes time, that it is a process. There is a great visual that I love, and people in the grieving community have seen it. It's, if you vision a mason jar with a ball in it, the mason jar, and the ball is your grief. And people think the ball is going to get smaller. Your grief is going to get smaller over time. And that is not the case. Your grief stays the same. You grow and expand around your grief. And we grieve because we love, Ash. And love is a beautiful thing. And unfortunately, with love comes grief and pain. And just knowing that there is hope, there is a great life for you out there after grief and loss is so important.
Well said. Jody, on that note, and your 3 amazing lessons of coping with grief: believe in yourself, be present wherever you are, and give yourself grace. And then you told me your very powerful message: whatever you are facing will take time. It is a process. Thank you so much for speaking to me about your own amazing journey. And I'm so delighted and amazed at how you have landed so beautifully and so strongly on your feet. Thank you for the amazing work that you're doing, supporting so many widows in the workplace. I learned several new things from you today. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck.
Oh, thank you, Ash. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.